Okay, so you saw the thumbnail and you read the title and you think I'm an ungrateful arsehole. You're probably right. And, I'm going to explain to you why you should stop giving me free comics and free comics to anyone else, as a matter of fact. Okay. But what I need you to do is I need you to watch the whole video because I'm going to show you something. And this is probably the most important lesson that I'm going to teach on this channel because I know this kind of sucks the creativity out of making comics, but you need to start thinking as comics as a business as well as, the creative aspect because everyone wants to break into comics, but they need to realize that they actually want to break into the comics business. There is business element to that, and I need to show you something. Okay, so bear with me. Here we go. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, I've kind of gone through every aspect of the comic making process, from plotting ideas to actually going out and printing your comics. Now, when you've finished your first comic, you are going to print it. You're going to sell it at Comic Cons. You're going to sell it online and that kind of thing. Now, I've suggested that when you do this, you start at a nice low number because you can always order more. You don't want to like buy 1,000 comics and then you're stuck with 750 because you weren't able to sell them all. So I've suggested start around 100. Now, the average cost to print around 100 comics, depending on the printer you use, make sure you get the best quote from the best printer. Usually, it's going to cost you around £150. So that means your actual cost per unit per comic to you as a creator is £1.50 because what you're doing is you're dividing that cost of the overall print run, the £150, by the number of comics that you're doing, and that gives you the cost of £1.50. Now, if you take me, for example, I sell my comics for £3 each. Okay, now that sale price, that's my revenue. So if we take that revenue per comic that I make, that £3 at times by how many comics I'm printing, 100, that gives me a total revenue of £300. So to work out how much profit I make as a creator from that print run and how many comics I've sold based on my cost and my revenue, we need to take the total revenue, which is that £300 that I've made from selling 100 comics, and removing the print cost, which is 150. So that gives me my profit, which in this example equates to £150 profit, which is fantastic. It's cost me £150 to print them. I've sold them for twice as much and I've walked away with £150 profit. So that's great in a perfect world, but unfortunately we don't live in a perfect world. So say you do print 100 copies of your comic, it's very unlikely you are actually going to have 100 copies of that comic to actually sell. And the reason for this is, a couple are going to get damaged in the box from the printers. It happens and you can't scream at the printer saying, oh, 2 are damaged, you need to replace them. That's not going to happen. Also, you need to send your collaborators comps, your letterist, your colorist, your artist, they all should get, 2 or 3 copies of that comic to say thank you for all their hard work. And then you want to send a couple out to editors. There's a couple of editors at Marvel and a couple of editors at DC. You want to send your books out to introduce yourself. And then your mum's really proud that you've made your first comic, so you give her one, you give a couple of your buddies ones as well. And then you do your first Comic Con, and you said to the guy next to you or the person next to you, I'll swap you mine, you swap me yours. So in reality, you're not going to have 100 copies of that comic. It's more likely you're going to have around 80 copies. So this means it's actually going to push your unit cost up from £1.50 to £1.87, which I know doesn't sound like a massive amount, but when you're looking at this overall, it does affect your profit margin by quite a lot. So in my case, if I'm still selling my comics at £3 each, that's going to affect the amount of revenue that I get in, because 80 copies at £3 each actually is only £240 compared to the £300 previously. So that means my new revenue of £240 minus the £150 cost to print that comic actually only leaves me with a £90 profit, which is profit. It's great. But that means if I sold 100 comics at £3 each, I'd make a £150 profit. But if I only sold 80 because I gave loads away, it means my profit is only going to be £90. So overall, that means I'm going to make a 40% loss in my profit as a creator. And that's the point of this video today. You can give me as many free comics as you want. I'm incredibly grateful and I'm incredibly humbled that you think that, I like Matt, I want to give him a free comic. But you need to remember, every comic you give away impacts you as a creator. It costs you money. And if you're a writer like me and you're paying your collaborators to produce your art as well on top of that, when you include that cost, it's going to affect you even more. Okay, so that was the reason for this video. Please don't think me ungrateful if I say to you, no, I don't want to take your actual physical copies of your comic, sell it, make your money, and give me a free PDF instead. I'm happy with that. So hopefully that's opened your eyes a little bit. Hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the next one.